Hello, I'm Mike Gambardella, and welcome into the newest episode of Pat's Latest. There's a ton of NFL combine news and draft information out there. It looks like the NFL will be discussing whether to ban one of the most popular plays in the NFL, and it looks like the Patriots are the heavy betting favorites for a position of big time need. We'll start today with the news on a guy that a lot of us have been talking about it for the NFL draft and another position of need at wide receiver. And we talked recently about Tutorial McMillan and the potential of seeing him drafted by the Patriots. Now, at number 4, this could be a little bit of a stretch for the Pats, and we talked about it's going to be important to see how he does at the NFL Combine. Albert Breer, earlier today actually reported that he is seeing Tet McMillan going the wrong way. So we did talk about how Tet would probably be more towards that 10 area. It's looking more like it's a mid-round selection in the first round for Tet McMillan. So the Patriots, if they're staying at 4, would not be in a position to take him. We're quoted as saying the more teams have dug into the supersized Arizona prospect, the more teams have slipped, going from a surefire top 10 guy into probably more of a middle of the first round. So again, it's as teams are really diving into the makeup of Tet McMillan, not just necessarily his game film, we're starting to see it go the opposite way. And we thought this might happen. He kind of started high as the top wide receiver prospect, and again, all due flowers to Travis Hunter, as he's going to probably be more of a cornerback first and then the package of wide receiver plays that could change later. But as true wide receiver, it is Tet McMillan coming off the board first. It's another person, former 5-star recruit, Missouri star, actually, Luther Burden III, isn't the cleanest prospect in this draft either, per Breer. So there are a lot of question marks around the wide receiver class. Top 3 guys really right there in Hunter, McMillan, and Burden, all having question marks around them. Breer went on to say that teams aren't licking their chops the way they have in recent years over the day 2 talent either. So again, speaks to this class of wide receivers not being as high. What this means is there's not going to be probably an immediate answer to step into the lineup starting day 1 for the NFL draft class for Drake May to have another option. That puts more pressure on the free agent class that Mike Vrabel and Elliott Wolf will bring in. Now we know that T. Higgins is now under the franchise tag. Doesn't mean it's impossible to do. This does mean, additionally, because the free agent class is not that deep, the trade market could come into play. So keep your ears open. We'll make sure to do the same, and we will look at those big names like Cooper Kupp and DK Metcalf coming down the pike as well. More NFL Combine news as a top NFL draft pick for the Patriots and one of the top 2 players in this draft, Abdul Carter, will not be testing at the NFL Combine. The defensive end from Penn State put out a statement through his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, announcing that he has not fully recovered from the shoulder injury that he did sustain against Boise State in the college football playoff. He played through that injury in the Notre Dame game, that playoff semifinal, and actually was only recently cleared to resume training. Per Rosenhaus, they fully accept Abdul to be recovered in time to work out at his pro day at Penn State, and of course will quote-unquote perform at a very high level, very Drew Rosenhaus. Carter will also partake in the physical exams and interviews with teams at the Combine. Rosenhaus also went on to say that they'll send a letter to all NFL teams from the doctor who actually checked out Abdul Carter, Dan Cooper, stating he's just now been cleared, resumed training, and will be active on that March 28th pro day. Again, a lot of smoke here, not a lot of fire, not a lot of concern. Carter still expected to be one of the top 4 picks off, and potentially 1 or 2 if the quarterbacks do not acquit themselves at a high level for the NFL Combine here as well. So lots to watch this week. not just for Abdul Carter, but for Travis Hunter, the quarterback play, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. Can they make a push to come up towards the top of this draft board, which could open up some trade scenarios here for the New England Patriots? Another big name to watch who will not be testing as well. And a lot of these guys don't test, but they will be meeting with NFL teams and really just waiting for their NFL pro days at their schools, which sometimes they're just more comfortable doing it in that scenario instead of going to Indianapolis and running through the paces. In that regard, the higher prospects are usually seen doing this more. But the number one overall running back who could see him jump up potentially to talk into that top 5 slot, we saw Bijan Robinson come up a few years ago as well, is Ashton Jeanty. He is already being compared to some of the NFL's best. I think get your fantasy lineups ready to take him early if you want him, no matter where he ends up. But another guy who will not be testing. Not to say that the Patriots are necessarily in the market to take a running back that early. I think with a lot of other holes to fill for this roster. But there have been crazier things that have happened. So a good one to file back pocket. We'll also move on to potential starters here for the Patriots. We know that we'll put the likelihood at 95% they will have a new starting left tackle in New England come, we'll say, the end of April. But the Patriots now, according to Bovada, are the betting favorite for Rams left tackle Alaric Jackson. We've mentioned his name several times, but he is the heavy favorite now being associated. But this, again, take with a grain of salt, because the Patriots are going to be a quote-unquote heavy betting favorite for a lot of these free agents because of the cap space that they do have and the needs that this team has. What this means is that there will be several new faces for you to dive into once they actually signed, but the Patriots have many different ways that they can go with this. But he does make a ton of sense. He's a younger player at 26, a late bloomer, if you will, but has really shown out, especially the game footage from this past year. And at 6'7" and 340 pounds, he's tough to miss. Stop short of naming him one of the premier tackles in the NFL, but someone you could easily say is going to be your day one starter at left tackle, especially if Ronnie Stanley, the top free agent left tackle out there from the Baltimore Ravens, if he decides that he's either going to take less money to go to a true Super Bowl contender or find someone else that is going to pay top dollar. Either way, good to hear that the Patriots are still being lined up with several free agent left tackles. They will probably end up signing 3 offensive linemen in this go-around in free agency. So expect left tackle, potentially right tackle, and a guard to be signed through here. Again, we said in a previous episode that we had heard the signings of DeMontre Jacobs and Ben Brown already to reserves, but they still need to really make sure they're pushing through on that roster construction. We'll end tonight with a interesting one because an NFL team has actually voted to ban the tush push. Yes, the brotherly shove, the bread and butter of the Philadelphia Eagles, which actually has been on the docket in NFL meetings over the past 2 seasons, will be up for discussion yet again. This really centers more around player safety, not necessarily about whether it's an unfair play or not. Again, if you want to be able to get 2 yards in the NFL or stop someone from doing that, put your hand in the ground and stop you from doing that. But again, it will be up for debate. The reason we bring it up here is because if it stays in the NFL, and I fully expect it to, there could be some slight additions for that quote-unquote player safety, potentially how many players can push from behind, perhaps a small caveat to it. But I think with having now a second-year quarterback that is getting more comfortable in the scheme and having a guy that likes smash mouth football, don't be surprised if Mike Vrabel wanted to try something like this. You know, he had the Wildcat with Derrick Henry back there anyways, and now I know that you want to kind of have kid gloves with Drake May and really try and make sure that he's protected at all costs. But he is not a small quarterback. We saw it at the Pro Bowl when he was standing next to Russell Wilson and Joe Burrow. He dwarfed Russell Wilson and made Joe Burrow look pretty small. Drake May is much closer to Josh Allen's build than he is anybody else, standing in at 6'4". So if there is a potential that they wanted to actually start doing something like this, it still keeps it at the forefront and more options for Josh McDaniels. And that's the final lead in, is that what will Josh McDaniels do? He's had a year off. He's had another experience as a head coach somewhere else. He's going to have a lot of new toys to play with, more tools in his toolbox here, and I'm sure some more to be added as well. But what are the new things, the new wrinkles? We've seen the previous, passes, whether it's going from Mohamed Sanu to Danny Amendola to Julian Edelman and everyone else in between. What are the wrinkles? What are the fun things that we'll probably see? And I think seeing the legs being used of Drake May will be one that Josh McDaniels will have a lot of fun with. That'll do it for us on today's episode. Again, make sure you subscribe for our channel, turn on notifications, get in the comments and let us know what you think about Ted McMillan and what players, people, and other are saying about him. What's the biggest names at the combine you're interested in seeing, and who are those free agents the Patriots should sign? We'll see you in the comments, and fight on, Foxborough.